So this is the third video in our storytelling series. And what we're covering now is the delivery. And there's a lot of talent in this. Every person that's good at storytelling, especially if you're on the calls, you can hear how different alumni go through how they just present themselves. Now in storytelling, there's a few things that are key to delivery. Like we ended the last video on what makes the groundwork, some nuances of that. The structure is important, but a lot of it has to do with how you navigate that structure. We're going to learn, number one, how to get into rapport, how to just blast into it. Some cold, hard, canned routines that actually come from one of the most amazing products which actually nobody else could do, that it's kind of sad that nobody else could do, but called the Red Stack, which is something that I did. There was a customized stack for people that I haven't advertised in 5 years. I did 2 last year. Minimum price for them is $10,000. They're very, very hard to do. But I include a lot of routines from that in this storytelling delivery module, because it will tell you how to blast directly into rapport. I know we're working on rapport cycles and storytelling, but if you just want a quick way to get into rapport and actually build like physical feeling, the urge of seduction, we're going to cover that. Now, also, we cover in some ways of delivering, some ways of building a situation, building a frame. Anyway, watch the video. There's some really good stuff. To have people engaging your stories, as well as have you become a more dynamic human being to connect your real self, so that the people in your life are the people that are qualified for you, that like you, and the people that aren't right for you move out. And yeah, there might be some rejection in between, but man, you end up with the end result of a great life. That's a perfect expression of who you are. Anyway, I'm enjoying life. I hope you enjoy life. I made this so that you could learn. Please cherish it. There's some good stuff in here. Let's get ready. Take it seriously. Get your notebook out. Write, take notes, and apply it to your life. If you're not on TSL Online, upgrade to it. That's how we learn. You'll interact with me. I'll help you out personally, but more importantly, our alumni will help you out. And they're better than me at this. Anyway, different sides of the same beautiful perspective. All right. Talk to you in just a second. Well, my friends, let me just tell you, you're going to want to buckle up for this one, because the delivery, here we are going to cover a mountain of things. In fact, this is where you're going to get some cool, awesome social dynamic tidbits, as well as learn more and more about the depths of TSL. I mean, everything in TSL is fluid. Everything from opening, saying hello, the honesty exercise, all the way to the exercise that you're going to do, touch and move, 6 points of escalation, the nature of seduction, sexual health, social, whatever. There's so many different things. They all unify into this amazing oneness, which is sex. So the delivery here, bam, wow, awesome. Okay. Storytelling is unique because of a few things. It's deep. It's time consuming. You got to be able to own some time in the pocket, gents. And transitioning in and out of it can be kind of a talent. But really, once again, if we know some tools of rapport cycling, if we know the tools of making our definition solid, transitioning within our grounds, we can transition in and out of it like a mofo. Start with the definition. Change your definitions up. That will teach you how to transition. So what I want to get to here is some quick ways to get into rapport. So a lot of us might be caught up on rapport cycling because we're overthinking it. So we want just a cold, hard set of techniques that make us awesome. All right. Here you go, gents. This is the good stuff. This is from the golden era of the Red Stack, an amazing product that I made that I will only do for a very expensive price because they take a long time. And what's crazy is I still get requests for them. Haven't advertised in like 5 years. Did over 100 of these things. They're amazing, but it was basically a customized stack that I wrote for people. You write about your life, and I'd give you basically a manual, 100+ pages. Well, some of them, the first ones were like 8 pages. The first one was actually on a piece of paper, a napkin, to my buddy in Scottsdale, Arizona, who is now married with a beautiful daughter. But these came out of that. And these were rapport techniques to force somebody into rapport. All right. To get somebody to the point where there was so much happening, their emotions were engaged, their body was engaged, that you were tripping many things. And that was one of the beauties about the stack. TSL Online gives you an amazing wealth of tools like storytelling, like rapport cycling, like framing routines, like how to cold read, how to work all these principles. But the cool thing about the stack is all those things are happening at once in a lot of the routines. And here we learn them divided, and then ultimately your experience will unify them. And if you're a part of TSL Online, if you're not on the Getting Started program, you're on the rednetwork.net, then you can access a lot of the old stacks and see how they unify and swim within each other. There's a lot of things going on at once. It's pretty amazing and powerful. This is one of those examples. The secret, bam. If you want to know something that will trip somebody, start feeling seduction, start feeling instant rapport. I mean, this will trip them like a mofo. Do it. It's great for when you're in a bar. Everybody always talks about how I have stuff that doesn't work great in a bar. Man, I make it work in a bar. This is the motherfucker in a bar. So if you're in a bar and you're in a party situation and you get in this situation and a woman allows you to have it, take her home. Don't waste any time. Logistics, friends. All right, here's the situation. You're talking to a girl. It's in the first 2 to 10 minutes. Man, if you're talking to somebody and you're not isolated, you haven't hit rapport in 10 minutes, I don't care if you're in a bar, you're doing something wrong unless the situation is just abnormal. 90% of the time, after 2 minutes, you should know whether or not you are good for that person or not. All right. You should be isolated within 5 minutes. All right. It's my coaching thing. Got to relax. So the conversation is not naturally transitioning to rapport. This is where you go to the secret. You're not getting there. You're in one of those situations where you're like, man, Steve said in 5 minutes, it seems like 5 minutes. We're not connecting. I'm going to go to the secret. You're going to make a hard jump. So basically what this is a hard turn, as we talk about in the TSL connecting workbook. We talk about qualification, hard turn. All right. So you say, hold on. I got to interrupt you. This is something I just noticed, but I don't know if I should tell you this. That's just simply bait. You say, hold on, I got to interrupt you. There's something I just noticed about you, but I don't know if I should tell you this. Actually, look, can I tell you a secret? So once she says yes, maybe, what about, I don't know, any of those answers are acceptable. As long as she's paying attention, people really realize if somebody is paying attention to you, that's a good sign. It doesn't mean they're fully saying, yes, come and take me away, sweep me off my feet. But it is saying, like, you show me more. You show me more. You make me feel comfortable. It's not pushing you away. It's saying I'm giving you an opportunity to show me more. That's how you got to see it. If you touch a girl and she doesn't touch you back and she's standing there, that just means you need to find another way to communicate with her. Doesn't mean you're out. Never think that way. That's the way of remaining a virgin for a long time. All right. So you say, you know what? Look, can I tell you a secret? She says, well, I don't know. I say, look, okay. Now you get really close. You get close to her ear, cheek to cheek, in the position, right? In the position of telling a secret. That's the key part here, guys. You get in the physical position. When you get in a physical position, certain hormones trip. The closer somebody is, the more somebody communicates with their body language. Write that one down. The further away, the more they communicate with first their verbals, and if they move further and further away, like 10 feet away, it's their overall presence. The overall presence turns into one big blur of communication. 100 feet away, whatever, and then it becomes iconic. That's why people like rock stars. The closer you are, the more you communicate, the more sensitive your communication gets to with the urges of somebody, right? So she says, I I don't know what about. You say, okay. You know, I'm kind of a shy person, but you're making me nervous, and I kind of like it. Or you could say, you know, I'm somebody who's a really aggressive person, but you kind of have this weird side that makes me second guess myself. Or you could say, I couldn't hear you when you were talking, but I could tell that you and I could get along. In fact, it doesn't matter so much what you say. It matters that you get in that position, you take the time, you hold the beats, and you make that work. All right, so let's review one more time. You're talking to somebody, you're like, oh man, da 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 da, but this and that sucks and it's raining. And so, oh man, and my car is blah, blah. And you guys are just talking like a bunch of bullshit. You say, you know what? Hold on. One second. Okay, I got to interrupt you. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. I can't tell you this. This is totally, look, can I tell you a secret? Come here for a second. Come here. Look, when we were talking about all that stuff, I was looking at you and oh man, you're breathing on me. You're fucking, oh man, you're fucking making me nervous. But you like that. You like making me nervous. Fucking, hey, Jesus Christ. Come here for a second. Let's move over this way. If you can get that to be held, if you can do that, I'm doing it for you so that you can do it, so that you could copy it, so that you can do that technique, start adapting and applying different things for yourself, express your urge. Man, you're going to trip her. That's good. Now, that's not handling logistics. That's not getting her in your car. That's not getting your number. That's not making it stick. That's not any of those things. But if you can make a woman feel sex, we're born to be sexual. Oh, key, gentlemen, key. So basically, I say step forward as soon as you're done. Telling the secret, back up, smile, release. As you heard me do that, you back up. You're like, hey, look, let me just tell you, you have the cutest smile. Like it's it's totally screwed up, man. But you know what? I don't mean to startle you or make you feel anything too intense. In fact, you want to really trip a girl. This is a bonus thing for those of you who actually took the time to watch the video. So if you stuck around, just read the PDF, which has awesome stuff in it, you should read the PDF. You should study it. But if you watch this video, here's one of the best things. If you notice anything which is a blemish on her, or even like one time there was this slight birthmark on this one girl's face, beautiful slight birthmark on her face, but this could be like a hole from a piercing, teeth being a little bit crooked or slightly chipped, or I don't know, something which is a little bit off with her, maybe a stain in her shirt, something like that. Excellent time to implement a secret. And so here's what it was. I was actually working in New Mexico in Las Cruces, and I was at a wing house, believe it or not, and there was a girl that was a part of this large group party that I was at, and I was teaching, and I said to her, and she was really loud, really crazy. I said, hey, stop. Hey, do you know? Let me tell you something. Come here for a second. I just got really close in that position, where our stomachs are about to touch, cheek to cheek. That's the position you want to be in, guys. And I said, do you have is that a birthmark on your face? She immediately got insecure. She backs up. Oh my God, why did you tell me that? And I said, no. Look, hey, don't freak out. it's really attractive. But if you don't want me to say it's attractive, it's cool, whatever, all right, I'm going to go over here. Went over there, talked to some other people. Later on in the night, she was like, man, you told me that really makes me insecure, but why? Tell me what you were thinking. Tell me what you liked about it. And it gave me the opportunity then to work rapport about who she really was. Like, hey, look, I don't want to talk to you on a superficial level. I think you're attractive. I'm only in town a short time. Let's have a conversation about that. But that leverage, pointing out an insecurity, you could make all sorts of arguments about it, but the physical act of being that close and feeling that sort of sexiness, bringing up something which could somewhat be insecure, that they could be insecure about, or they might call it like a neg, but it's not in the normal seduction game. It hits so deep within them that it's this great mix of their sexuality, which is deep, their identity and persona, which is deep, and your acceptance of those things and wanting to communicate more. Wouldn't you want somebody to see think about this, your insecurities, your deepest insecurities, and say, man, that's beautiful. You'd be curious to know more. You'd want to show it to them. Take that step, guys. That's a golden nugget for you. So the secret is the shit. The statement, kind of like the secret, but we're moving a little bit quicker. Okay. So the situation, you're talking to a girl, it's about a minute or two into the conversation. You can tell she's receptive, she's attractive, and you don't want to waste any time. So you do an interrupt, a hard turn, gentlemen. Go back to the connecting PDF, the last one. Great workbook. You say, I just wanted to come out and say this. I know we just met, and I can tell that you and I are totally getting along, and I hate having a conversation that goes nowhere. So I want to ask you something. And at that point, we would just move into a rapport cycle. But this is actually the embodiment of what a hard turn or an interrupt would be. You guys could be talking about whatever. You can say, hey, look. We're talking about all this stuff. This might sound inappropriate or whatever. I might sound like a guy that is whatever. But look, I think you're really cool. And I think you think I'm cool, but maybe not or whatever. But I don't want to waste any time with talking about stupid stuff. So let me just ask you, like, because I want to see you again, but I want to know how you think. And I think, whatever, let me just ask you, what is really like your purpose? What is the meaning behind everything? Man, I remember so many times where I've switched like that in a conversation with women, and it just immediately opens up. And the funny thing is a lot of times they might talk about something and it might not even be what their true purpose is as I get to know them. But man, do they tap into that side of them, that image of them that they've never explored. That's the only reason why they can't articulate it. It's not because they're lying, but it's because nobody's offered them that situation. Nobody's offered them that form of conversation and connection. Good stuff. Now, you want to know another badass little trick? This one here, super gold mine, super nugget, the test. This is stimulating a frame. We've talked about frames a little bit, but haven't gone into it in a great, lengthy deal. But we're doing them already if we're rapport cycling. And we're doing them already if we're doing our baits and our teases properly, and our conversation and our opening engagement. Man, if we're doing all this stuff, we're hitting frames. And basically, a frame is a definition or a loose definition about how we're interacting. Like if I'm talking to somebody and I set a frame, they've basically just made a decision that they like this thing and I like this thing. Like a sexual frame would be a decision that it's like, man, I know that you're sexually aggressive and you feel okay talking to me about being sexually aggressive. So we have a frame set on sexuality. A frame might be that I'm a teacher and you're a student, or that I'm a salesman and you're a buyer. That would be a typical frame. It's like it's an assumed frame. that we don't move out of. So the conversation moves within it. Well, the idea is if you set frames around your conversation, you know, you're building a situation. And as we know, situation beats technique. So we want to stimulate a situation as much as possible. Look, this is a badass framing tool. Don't get too much into framing. The reason why I don't highlight it so much is because you already naturally do it. People overthink it a lot. There's some cool stuff you can do with it, but leave that up to this and maybe some other framing routines that you find online, which I would recommend. Really only using Captain Jacks and Nick Quicks. That's everybody else is little bit more overthought. Start with Captain Jack, real simple stuff. Okay, so in this one, basically you're talking to somebody. The environment's a bit more active. But you could do this in the daytime. You could do this really anywhere. But you want to isolate with this but you can use it to isolate. So here's how you would use it to isolate. You want to stimulate this. You can say, hey, you know what? You're totally cool. Like I could tell, but I'm not sure about you. Come here for a second. Come here for a second. And this is basically what this is doing. You seem really cool, but I haven't quite figured you out yet. But let me ask you something. Come here. Like, go away from your friends. It'll take like a minute and a half, maybe even 30 seconds. And then I can know why I hate you. Come here. Okay. So then we move on to step 2. You say, look, I'm not so sure about you, but I got to give you a test. It's a little different and you have to have an open mind to play it, but it's really quick. Okay. So put your hands on top of my hands and look at me directly in the eye and don't forget to relax. So I want you to just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Like, don't worry about judgment or whatever. Like, are you ready? You got to be ready. Okay, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? At that point, she will do, most likely, she's going to laugh. She might get kind of embarrassed. She might get kind of pissed. She might actually tell you. Okay. But most likely, she's going to laugh. And there's a cold read or whatever that you could do for all of these, because it is a framing routine. We're kind of moving in a specific direction. You could actually do this very fluidly, very authentically without making shit up. But here's the canned version. So we're assuming she laughs. You say, you know what? Like, because she's going to be nervous, right? So you say, what's the craziest thing she's ever done? She's going to be like, whoa, like, why are you telling me that? Oh my God. You say, okay, calm down. It's just a test. Like, like it actually had nothing to do with the answer, but it had more to do with your reaction. And you laughed. You reacted kind of crazy. You answered right away. So what that means is you're really cool because if you laughed, she had a sense of humor. If she acted kind of crazy, it means she had a wild side. If you answered right away, it means you're decisive. But the funny thing is that right before you answered, right before you got all nervous and just freaked out for a second, when I asked you, there was a split second before you reacted, and whatever you were thinking, that was totally fucking crazy. And I mean, whatever it was, like I want to know, but I don't want to know at the same time because I think I might like you more now. So basically, it's a real simple framing routine where you just say, like, hey, look, come here for a second. Let me ask you something. All right, it's a simple game. Put your hands on top of my hands. The reason why that's there is because if somebody puts their hands on top of your hands, they get kind of nervous. They don't know what you're talking about. You just say it. And then you prep it with all this stuff. You say, okay, like, you got to say the first thing that comes to your head. But, like, don't worry. Like, just don't judge. Just say, like, it's got to be. Are you ready? Are you relaxed? So that's obviously giving pressure and setting the stage, the situation, for things to be a little bit more tense. You build up all this tension and then you ask something totally crazy that's inappropriate that would be like, where's the weirdest place you had sex? What? Hey, I'm just joking. Like, it actually has to do with, it has nothing to do with the actual question, but it has to do with how you react. Well, you're asked like questions that are kind of nervous because it says something about your personality and you actually passed. It's cool. Like you're like, open-minded and relaxed and fun, but actually, let me tell you, whatever you were thinking, like right before you freaked out like that was some like crazy fucking triple X, man. If I found out I might have to register as a sex offender. She's like, but it's fucking like whatever. Like, I think I like you. I think you're actually like much cooler than I like. We should totally talk, but in a place where at least there's like a call block box that I can get to safety with or something like that. So basically, very simple. It's a framing routine, and what that says, what that states, is that um, basically I'm trying to set a frame that it's okay to be sexual, that I know a certain side around her that we can communicate in, and especially privately. Like, it also shows like I'm having fun, or having fun in a bar. There's like a release that I give to it, like, hey, I'm gonna have to register as a sex offender, and I gotta be next to like somebody who might save me if that, like, it's joking, and it's showing that this is between us. When I'm around your friends, I'm being myself. All right, let's get into this. So those are some gold nuggets, guys. This stuff, getting into rapport, good stuff. Let's get into maintaining rapport. So that was like blasting our way into rapport. Comfort blasters, as I call them. Maintaining rapport. Let's go into this. Man, oh man, something everybody asks. How do I deal with when somebody says, "Why are you asking me all these questions? Why are you telling me this? This is weird. I never met somebody who says all this. This went way too deep, way too fast. I don't talk this way. Only my best friends talk about this." Like, that's a compliment, guys. If you ever get that, that's good. There's only two reasons why she could say that. It means she's uncomfortable and needs more comfort, needs to be made comfortable. She's uncomfortable and you need to release. Okay, so they both kind of have to do with making her more comfortable, unless you totally need to release, which means you guys aren't qualified to talk to each other. It wasn't really the technique, it wasn't your expression, it's just that you and her don't match. That can hurt sometimes, but she's uncomfortable and needs to be made comfortable, or she's uncomfortable and you need to release. You need to take a step back, and then you can decide whether or not to take a step forward. What we're going to learn here is the ABCs of resistance. Okay, we're going to learn a lot about resistance. We're going to learn a lot about it and the nature of seduction, intent, and escalation. We will realize resistance is our friend. The ABCs are this: acknowledge, buffer, and cycle. Acknowledge, buffer, cycle back. Acknowledge, let her know you noticed she's a little tense and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay? Whenever you get resistance, the answer is to stop. Always. But resistance might mean, hey, I need to be made comfortable. Okay? Buffer, let her know you can stop and maybe you've gone too far. Cycle, you cycle back to the escalation process. But this time you're going to go deeper. All right? So, what's happening here is you are going to see how this works. And in fact, the buffer might also be a little bit more of a release. Like, the acknowledgement is acknowledging that you may have gone too far and that you noticed something, but the buffer could also be like, hey, let's talk about the weather. But hey, let me really ask you. Okay, so if she gives resistance, if she gives you any resistance, like, I don't know if I feel comfortable talking to you about this, or I barely know you. I've been talking to you like I've known you for years. Those could all be like great things. Then snaps herself out of state. You're going to want to move into this pattern. You just acknowledge, you say, hey, look, I don't mean to make you nervous. I guess you just click with some people. But you know what? I think you're right. You might get the wrong idea about me, and like, I'm not always like this. The funny thing is one thing I wanted to ask you, but was afraid of how you would react, is if you're someone who's comfortable with your sexuality. So this could happen very simply. Like, I'd be talking to somebody and be like, man, what is the most attractive thing about you? Like, what? Okay, when was the last time like a guy really liked your pussy? So what? I barely look. All right. I'm kind of uncomfortable talking to you about this. A lot of guys freak out. But for myself, I just know it's like, I just hit a nerve with her. She's talking to me. She's clearly talking to me. But she's like, man, okay, I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to you about this. If you let that sit, yeah, she's going to justify it and say, yeah, you were inappropriate. Then you can just say, hey, look, I don't mean to make you nervous. Sometimes I go overboard. Look, it's how I talk. Maybe it's because I grew up with too liberal of a mother, but we could totally stop. Like it's totally cool. Let's go back to talking about like the color red. It's just such a cool color and all that sort of stuff. But you know what? Okay, look, let me just ask you because I know you're cool with it, but like, are you somebody that, like you are you somebody that is comfortable with your pussy? Like, totally. You love how it smells. You love how like wet it gets. You love like all that sort of stuff. So acknowledge, buffer, cycle back. And you can, a lot of times, in fact, that's what I'm pointing out here, is cycle back deeper. Okay. Another situation. You strike a nerve. Wait, I don't know. This isn't right. Like, this is totally like you say this to everybody. You were like, this is too easy for you. Women will say that all the time. If you're moving too deep, because they don't want, I mean, their biggest fear is that you don't see them uniquely. You say, you know what? you know, you don't have to get nervous by that question. But I'm actually asking you because I think you aren't immature in that way. So what makes you attractive? But what makes you attractive in a sexual way? So there we're just moving deeper with the resistance that we got. Resistance is our friend. It makes us realize that we're moving on the right path. Okay. So if we hit resistance, that means that she's feeling an urge. You know, if we let it go, we're not doing our duty as a man to play that, social lubricant back and forth to get her to open up more. And that's really what she wants. If we deny it, if a girl shows her intent to us, and which her resistance could be part of her intent, and we don't do anything with that intent, it's shaming to her. It's a terrible feeling. So it's a tough balance. It's a language we have to learn, but once you learn it, it's very easy. Checking and relating. This actually comes from Juggler. When I taught a few guys who were Juggler students, they told me you do this all the time. And this is something really simple. So checking in and relating. If we have, and we're talking about storytelling here. I know we've been talking about some framing stuff and the ABCs of resistance, but when it comes to telling a long story, we have to have a lot of charisma. We have to have a lot of tools, but we don't know how to do it. And what I'm trying to say here is the ground is important, but learn the thesis and the definition first, and you can keep your ground short, or you can have them wander and take a long time. But if you're going to have long wandering grounds, what you need is the ability to check in and relate. So a check in is really simple. It's just saying, like, it's just checking in. It's like I'm talking to you guys and I'm like, but you've been there before, right? Or I'm taking a long time and I'm going, but you have a friend like that, right? I'm just checking in. Wait a minute, you understand what I'm talking about, right? Okay, you've been to Chicago. Okay, so you haven't been there, but you understand. All right, I get all carried away and things like this. I'm just having them engage in the conversation for a split second so that I can continue on. So I'm talking about stuff and I say, man, the color blue is so great. It's different than red in the sense that it's just different. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I go into the science. Look, I think about weird stuff, right? Okay. Well, look, the color blue, I can't describe how it's different than red other than it is different. It's blue. But man, am I losing you? Okay, I am losing you. All right. Well, let me try and explain. Blue is blue. Like I'm looking at blue right now, and in my head, you can see blue, and it's different than red. But what if red was blue? Okay, you're totally confused, right? So all those little check-ins of like saying like you're confused, you're not confused, you understand, I think different. These are ways of me just popping in and having you re-engage with the conversation. And you don't need to talk about something so absurd as red and blue. That's just an example of how you can string something along. But if I'm talking about something fairly interesting, you know, and talking about like, oh man, one of my favorite things is to watch movies and to get sucked away in them. But as soon as I started getting into that mode of relationships where, part of having a relationship is sitting around and watching a movie with Maria, and a lot of times they're stupid. I mean, you've had that experience before where you just like a stupid movie to like a stupid movie, right? So that's that's what I've become. Here I am, this guy, like I could talk about Lars von Trier, I could talk about Fellini. I love these movies. In fact, I hated Lars von Trier for years because he was so pretentious, but then you can't deny how good he is. But I mean, you know how idiosyncratic I get with all this stuff, right? So there I am checking in. You've had experiences like that before. You understand that. Those are key pivotal points to telling stories and maintaining your rapport within those stories. Now, relating is another thing, which is something that is very important. And a lot of the times, I remember when I was teaching rapport cycling to some people, they were saying like, "Oh, you're just relating with people." I was like, "No, no, no, no. If I'm relating, then I'm just saying, oh man, I understand you because you have these issues and you've felt sadness. And, I understand that. What I'm really trying to do with rapport cycling is I'm saying, I understand sadness. So I want to know this more about you. Rapport cycling is actually digging and exploring more within somebody. And then through that, connection is stimulated. Relating is a little bit different. And get some experience, get some more rapport cycles under your belt and storytelling, that sort of thing. We could have a conversation about this because many new techniques could derive from the difference between relating and exploring the expression within somebody. Um, but relating is an important tool because I could be in a story and say, like, oh man, it was so interesting. The first time I traveled through the South, I was so afraid. Here I was only knowing California, only knowing Hawaii, and only knowing the cities. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'm driving through Mississippi. All I hear is, how backwards everybody is, and my car breaks down. And I mean, you've had a situation where you're totally afraid and maybe you kind of like get a big slap in the face from reality of how retarded you are, but like you can understand that fear, right? So there I'm trying to relate or get somebody to relate with my situation. But let's say I continue on with the story and my car broke down, and I was amazed at how much people helped you, where that would never happen. Never happen. It might happen a little bit in Hawaii, but in a very different way. But that would never happen in the big cities in California. Nobody would ever relate with you in that sort of way and help you out. Here I am using the term in the in the audio. But my relation could be something like, you know what? That's kind of like the first time I met you, I picked up on like the kindness you had. It's just very cool, but it was that same kind of southern kindness. So I'm just relating either a characteristic about them or a characteristic about myself that they might notice to the story. All these are tools just to engage them more. All right. So check this out. Here at the end of it, we have a few more storytelling breakdowns, empowering the thesis, the ground, and the definition. Take a look at them. What's important about these ones, and I'm actually not going to get into them because I think this video series for storytelling is enough. And again, one of the reasons why you should read the PDFs. But what we do is we take topics directly from that might be that some are positive, some are negative. Remember, connection is neutral. Connection doesn't need something that society says is good or bad. It needs connection. It needs two people connecting. So we actually take topics that might come from the identity workbook, like jealousy in relationships. How does jealousy affect relationships? All right. And we make them work. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Here, fears and insecurities, something nobody wants to talk about. An example of how it works in a story. You can even make reports cycling about it. Sexuality and greed. How cool is that? And we start off with a breakdown of our thesis ground definition of all of them. And we learn some good stuff. So, in that, gents, TSL Online, Lesson 4, Storytelling Workbook 5, The Art of Sharing Your Life. Take the information that you got from this, a lot of stuff. Remember, theory, phenomenon, structure, and delivery. Man, very good stuff. Use it to make your life better, build your connections, and don't forget to live your life and own it. So how do you like that, guys? We're moving on. Nature of Seduction's coming next. We're going to learn. We learned a lot about social health. We learned a lot about what it means to really express ourselves and experience with fulfillment. Now we're going to learn about sexual health. Week 10, week 11, week 12 are going to be some amazing experiences. You are going to learn more about yourself and sexuality and your true nature of what you were born to be. Do the assignments, do the exercises for the storytelling workbook, answer all the questions in the workbook, and do the assignment and exercise, which is to tell your story. And man, you're going to learn a lot. Remember, get functional, add the fancy stuff later, and there's way more to come with TSL Online. Live your life, own it.